Hi, my name's Brian Birch. I'm a self-esteem life coach and I run overcominglowselfesteem.com. In this video I'm responding to a Yahoo Answers message where a man asked how can he help his friend overcome low self-esteem. So I'm going to talk about what self-esteem is, some practical ways of overcoming low self-esteem, and some of the challenges of self-esteem. So what is self-esteem? Let me give you some examples. If you have yet another failed relationships and you think it must be your fault, or perhaps somebody hates the life that they have, that they feel that it has no direction. Perhaps at work somebody believes that they are not quite as good as their boss or their colleagues tell them, and that they self-sabotage. If a person has low self-esteem, they may well feel that they don't deserve good things, that bad things will happen in the future. They may not be asserting their needs, and they may be distorting some of the facts and see all the negative things. A bit of a caricature, but some of the statements that somebody may make about themselves, and you see it on some of the internet sites. If they feel ugly, if they feel stupid, they feel lonely, if they're unemployed, or they've been romantically rejected, or maybe they feel hopeless. Well, these are the sorts of states that may make people, or people may have low self-esteem. They don't feel great about themselves, they don't necessarily feel worthy of being loved, and sometimes they feel it's their fault. So there's a layered effect, and they feel it may go on over time. One of the quick questions I might have is if it's a situation that's bad, if they ask themselves, is it me? And either they say, yes, it is me, they admit it, or they think they're defensive, they say, no, it's not me, it's not my fault I'm in this situation, but deep down that they feel that it is them. Then in that case, they may have low self-esteem. But obviously you have to distinguish this between appropriate taking responsibility for situations. Nathaniel Branden is a man who has written many books on self-esteem, is highly regarded, and let me talk through his 6 pillars of self-esteem. First one is personal integrity, standing up for what you value. Perhaps you value working hard, family and friends, being loyal, those sorts of things, staying strong to those. Then there's living consciously. This is, in short, about being realistic, being honest about what's happening in the situation. So not picking up all the negative facts, weighing up the good and the bad, seeing things realistically. Self-responsibility, taking responsibility for what one should, what's appropriate, what's healthy. Self-acceptance, accepting oneself, accepting one's part in a situation in a normal, a healthy way. Self-assertiveness, knowing one's needs and asserting them. And living purposely, the general purpose in life issue here of knowing where one's going. So the idea here is that if you're thinking all the negative things, you're not taking responsibility, you're not accepting yourself, at some level you know something's going wrong, and it may be that you don't feel great about yourself. Sometimes people have bravado and they try and hide that, but it's self-esteem if they don't feel they're able to cope with. The definition says the basic challenges of life, but the general things of getting a job and making relationships. And if they don't feel worthy of being loved. So if those things aren't going well, it could be a self-esteem issue. Nathaniel Branden's quote of self-esteem is that self-esteem is the disposition to experience oneself as competent to cope with the basic challenges of life and as being worthy of happiness. So it's a general observation. It may well be about being over time, from past, future to weeks or years in the future, and it may also be about one's own decision. People with low self-esteem may well not trust their own decisions, feel that they can't choose the right path, that they regret some of the choices that they've made before. So how can you help your friend overcome low self-esteem, or how can you overcome low self-esteem for yourself? Well, look again at the 6 pillars of self-esteem and list out what you're doing right in terms of these, and also list out some of the things that are some of the unusual answers that you may give to these. So, in personal integrity, being realistic, responsibility, acceptance, assertiveness. If you're say, well, I'm great, I'm great, I'm asserting myself, but there's a voice there saying, well, I'm not really. It's just something that's that extra thing. You're looking, you're asserting yourself, but it's the extra thing that indicates there's a bit of a self-esteem issue there, which is why telling yourself good things in the mirror, affirmations, and writing out lists of your strengths may not be good enough. That it's the extra voice that comes in, that's the bit we need to address. Okay, but listing out the good things, the things you do accept, the things you're responsible for, and then at least noting what's outside the box, those extra comments, is useful. You may say to yourself, I can learn anything. That's great, that's a good thing. It makes you be realistic about your own strengths, and that's a high self-esteem thing. But if there's a little voice that says that's not enough, then we have to address that and see how realistic that voice is. You start to move the focus onto where the issue is. If one is responsible, has a good purpose, and is honest with oneself, it was beginning to move towards high self-esteem. There's some of the pillars of high self-esteem. So why would you build high self-esteem? Well, for some of the issues that you feel better about yourself, you may well link. If you feel better about yourself, that may well link towards getting a promotion, feeling that you can put your hand up, to be trusted in a certain position, to feel that you can persevere in a position, that you can hold down a relationship. And statistics vary, but if you see a link between feeling good about yourself and doing the right things and getting the right things coming back to you and deserving them and keeping them, then that's self-esteem, and that's where it can help. It is possible to do well at one's job without very good self-esteem, through persistence, through high levels of skill, and you may come off stage if you're an actor, or come out of your office and not feel great about yourself. So it is possible. So you have to draw your own relationship between why one would want self-esteem, but ultimately it is about the challenges of life and feeling that one is worthy of happiness and may well be worthy of good relationships. So that in itself is obviously a good thing. Whether you draw the link between money and job success, that's up to you. For a lot of people, I believe that there will be a strong link there. For helping people overcome low self-esteem, some of the broader issues I face is making them believe that it is possible to do it, it's practical, that it will work for them, and that they should do it now. And I can go through why this is the case. The method I use is called clean language. It has been used by psychotherapists. It's been used for post-traumatic stress disorder. So some hefty issues that have been used with this method. Essentially, it's asking simple questions. What would you like to have happen? Is there anything else about that, whatever you've just talked about? He uses the client's words and repeats them back, and then asks a question. What kind of is that? And it uses the words to build a context and focus in particular areas, and that way we understand what the sequence of events, the thoughts, the feelings, how the client works through things and what's happening, and we can focus on the areas that are useful, and then be realistic about things. You almost shine a light on what's happening. I sometimes think of myself as a tour guide, that I'm able to discover the new frontier of what's going on for a person. If they like that example, I can learn lots, but that's not enough. Well, you'd ask about, well, is there anything else about that's not enough? You'd focus on that, and you get the person to actually break down what's happening in that. And then you could focus on the more positive areas and make sure the client has the right sort of positive focus of where to go, and builds up strengths. Clean language asks simple questions. It's future orientated. It is all about improving things. It focuses on the client's words, and it focuses on what the client says that the client wants. I, as the coach, I don't presume that I know best. I don't presume to bring in a lot of structure into it. It's very much understanding what paths the client goes on, and knowing, having a reference point of where the client, what the client wants to have happen, such as feeling good in relationships, and steering the client towards that. It doesn't presume that the thoughts come first and then the feelings happen. It doesn't presume that the client needs me to have a prominent role, for my opinion to matter as the coach. It can be completely about the client, but I also ask what role I should play in it, and I'll take that role. There are various ways of doing it, and it's all centered around focusing on the client's world, the client's information, and just what needs to happen. So we focus various steps. We focus on is it the right setting, and broadly we'll also be picking up, does the client feel that progress is possible, that we can move ahead. We'll look in, we'll ask the client what the client would like to have happen. We'll ask what needs to happen for that to happen. We'll expand, we'll build up the picture of, well, I need a good relationship, well, I need to feel good about myself, I need a good job to get the good relationship. Maybe the steps the client feels need to happen, and then, well, what do you need to learn or do or act like to get that job? And maybe I need approval of somebody. Will you work and you understand what needs to happen? And as we expand, maybe it's all about themselves and giving themselves acceptance and approval for themselves rather than somebody else. So you clarify what's happening and what are all the steps that are needed. Now, they're the main parts for low self-esteem and how to overcome it. But some of the things I check is what needs to happen from here. How would you know that working with me would be right for you? Well, what needs to happen for you to know as client, or for the client to know what they want? What needs to happen for the client to trust a method, to understand a method, and to understand to have the right relationship with me as a coach, and how important that is, obviously. What needs to happen for the client to commit to the hours that are needed, to pursue, to take the actions that are needed. What needs to happen for the client to be sure that the value for money proposition is right, and to understand when it's worth having those benefits. Obviously they can be great benefits, but it's also for the client to understand the likelihood of those, and to feel that that's practical and possible, which it is. And obviously I'm interested in talking more and making that seem very real and very possible. So that's about low self-esteem. What low self-esteem is: personal integrity, living consciously, self-responsibility, self-acceptance, self-assertiveness, living purposefully. I use clean language to ask the questions, to find out the goals, to find out what needs to happen, and I bring you or your friend or the client towards what they need to have happen, and towards what they want to have happen, the main goal. And it's all about understanding what you need and who you need to be to have high self-esteem. So I'm Brian Birch. I'm a self-esteem life coach, and please visit my website if you're not looking at it right now on www.overcominglowselfesteem.com.